Collaborative. My name is Jennifer Nagle and I'm your host. We are establishing this virtual collaborative because we recognize that people need community now more than ever. And AVID has always been a community where we lean into each other, we recharge, we learn, and we come as a place for inspiration. And that's now more than ever, we need this. We're also welcoming educators that are new to AVID today who are joining us here. So we will be in this space every Thursday with spectacular content queued up. And today we have some very special guests that will be joining us. But before they do, I would like to just take a moment and just acknowledge the educators in this country that have just stepped out into this virtual experience of online learning, teaching virtually, connecting with students virtually, trying to build relationships. And it's just incredible to watch what you are doing. I think I'm moved every day just and get a little emotional at just what I see. And so as we think about that today, let's also acknowledge that all of the educators and everyone working from home and staying home like we're supposed to, we're really getting a workout from our internet provider. And so let's be patient. We might freeze today. We might need to practice some perseverance or grit. We might need to come back together. So if things freeze, just know that we'll join you and we'll be back, and we're just practicing this experience. So today, we have two educators from iSucceed High School in Idaho. iSucceed is a virtual school, 100% virtual, and they're also in their second year of implementing the AVID elective and being an AVID school. So we have Clayton Trehal, who's the principal of iSucceed. This is his 19th year in education. There's Clayton right there. And he spent 8 years as a principal of a brick and mortar school before moving over to the online world, where he's had about 10 years of experience there. He's a history teacher, that's his background, and he's in his 7th year as an administrator. When I asked Clayton what he loved about AVID, he said what he loves is that it really takes the best of the instructional methods that are out there and packages it into a dynamic system. So welcome, Clayton. We also have Allison, who's the director of iSucceed School and the executive of the district. She's been in an online teaching environment since 2002, and this is her 22nd year in education. She really seems to like non-traditional education. Before starting at iSucceed, she actually taught in a juvenile for about 10 years. So that's a whole other conversation we have on a future session of AVID's virtual class. Her passion for providing quality education is for all students is just what drives her day. And she's really proud of the work that they're doing at iSucceed, and also what she loves about the partnership with AVID that they have. She just says that it's a challenge and it's a blessing and it's an opportunity to reach lives. And so that's what we're doing. Shortly after we announced this event, we received more than 85 questions from those of you who are watching today, and questions have just kept pouring in. So we've clustered those questions into 5 main areas, and these are really the takeaways that you're going to have out of this session. So the first is just, as we think about the difference between asynchronous and synchronous learning and what that looks like, how we blend them to create the best opportunity for our students. The second takeaway is that we're going to look at what it means to build relationships in a virtual environment, right? We're very used to that fist bump at the door, but today we're going to talk about what other ways we can build relationships with our students. We're going to look at what virtual social and emotional learning can show up like in an online space, how we can support our students with time management, and we're going to also talk a little bit about just being patient with ourselves and with each other. So welcome, Katie and Clayton. We are so glad that you guys are here with us, and all of our friends across in this AVID Facebook collaborative live stream today. This is our first one with many more to come. So here we go. I think the first place that I would like to start is to just start with, and I think I'm going to start with Katie. Right now, we are leaning into this opportunity to explore virtual learning. And as we lean into this opportunity, we recognize that there are lots of different ways learning can take place. So there's asynchronous, there's synchronous learning, there's a blend of the two. And so if you could just take a moment and explain from your perspective what asynchronous and synchronous learning are, and then what iSucceed is using as their model.
All right. Hi, everybody. We use a blend of both in our school. Our curriculum and assignments are mostly asynchronous, which means students can access them 24/7 on their own time, whatever fits their schedule. We also provide asynchronous video instruction in courses, which are bite-sized videos teachers make explaining strategic steps or difficult assignments. Teachers also include weekly live sessions, which are synchronous, and office hours and Google Hangouts chat, where interactions can happen in real time.
Great. And Clayton, do you have anything you want to add to that, just in terms of synchronous, asynchronous, what educators that are navigating this for the first time want to think about as they think about these two and how to separate them out?
Yeah, so I would emphasize that you really need to have three things to do online education. You need to have a platform, which we call LMS, Learning Management System. You need to have a virtual classroom, and then you need to communicate. And that first part, that's the asynchronous part, and that needs to be where the kids turn their assignments in, and that needs to be thought of, because can you imagine as a teacher getting emails for every single assignment? That can really overwhelm you. And so I think that's important. And then one of the things that I learned first became an online educator is my virtual classroom is not the same thing as the platform. And I tried to make it. I got so bad I would call kids and go, I'm doing my live session in 30 minutes. I hope you're there. We'll be interacting with your platform, with your LMS asynchronously in addition to your virtual sessions. And I think that you need to use that and use your communication tools to maximize your interaction with kids, but not necessarily just because a student is not in live session with you does not mean that they're learning. They could be interacting asynchronously with the LMS at time anyway.
Great. So we have asynchronous, which means that you're working when you're working, and I'm putting assignments out there, you're grabbing them, you're working. And then synchronous would be that we're coming together. So that would be a great opportunity for us to maybe do a virtual tutorial or something like that. And on future episodes, we're going to get into how we actually navigate some of those more sticky parts of what we're trying to do. That's great. And it sounds like a blend is ideal, that we want to have time where we're all together, and we want to have time where students can actually maximize that online experience. I know I have a 17-year-old of my own who's experiencing virtual learning for the first time in his life, and he's enjoying getting to just build his schedule around when he can do his work. And so I think that's nice to see that sort of freedom for our students. So within this virtual environment, and particularly thinking about what AVID looks like in a virtual environment, relationships are important. And I know that that's one of the main points that I feel like educators across the country are struggling with, is how do I build relationships with my students? I greet them at the door. I can't fist bump everyone. I can't look them in their eyes necessarily every day. I can't have that human connection. And so I just would invite you to maybe think about and provide us with some strategies of how do we really do this well, and how can this actually be a deeper way of building relationships than just a fist bump at the door. Either one of you. That question.
I can start. I think one of the key things is that each teacher should really strive for a social or digital presence in their digital classroom. And I think what this looks like in our school is that the student will enter our digital classroom, online classroom, and they'll see that the teacher's available and willing to help them, contact information, an intro video, announcements. And teachers can use all the tools, all the digital tools available to them to do this: email, text, phone calls, videos, live sessions, to get to know each teacher and each student and build rapport. And I think the other thing too that a lot of people don't realize in the online world is we have the opportunity to work more one-on-one with students because a lot of that curriculum is already delivered. And so providing that meaningful feedback on assignments is pretty powerful. That really gives that student individualized attention. And I think, the reality is right now as a nation is we need to maybe get over the hurdle of thinking about all of the work it takes to do this online instruction and really just be focusing on connection and being there for them in any way that we can.
Yeah, I love some of the concrete examples of email recording, as hard as it might be for us as the person doing it, but just recording some videos and putting it out there and having students see us, struggle to navigate the technology and feel awkward or uncomfortable, but to do it anyway, and then to find ways. Clayton, do you have any ideas that you can add around what relationships in a virtual environment can look like?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Katie said it. I would just focus on communication, and about this. Those relationships are built around conversations. Tools have changed, but they're still built around conversations. And so you have to ask yourself in the online world, how do I foster these conversations? For example, we require our teachers like week mails that, letting kids know this is what's coming up for the week. Really, we're connected with our students on Google Hangouts so they can IM us. We have all of these impromptu live sessions. We also have group hangouts. Kids can get with themselves or sometimes both, where there's discussion prompts. I would just remember, even as the tools have changed, if you really focus on the conversations, what is happening, the interaction between you and kids and each other, then neat things can still happen. And that the irony of first, I don't see my kids, but then actually you have to have really conversations with kids during this, and you realize I'm getting to know kids despite the fact that I don't see them face to face. And in that, it's still education. I'm still in my classroom. I'm still teaching. I'm still doing all the things I used to normally. It just looks a little bit different in this world.
Yeah, that's good. I think that's good. I think it's just that good reminder that at the heart of teaching is relationship. And many of our relationships that we experience in our own lives are virtual, right? So my friends that I'm communicating with, even before this unprecedented time, much of our communication actually happened through technology. And so if we think about communication being the heart of building relationships, that really gives us some runway to play with. So thank you for that. So in addition to relationships and how we build relationships with our students, what are some ways for having students build relationships with each other? And I know you mentioned Google Hangouts, you mentioned, coming together synchronously, but are there any other things for people that aren't quite ready yet? They don't have the tools yet to do that sort of level of engagement. But if we think about how we have students feel like I'm not alone and I'm actually in this learning environment with other people just like me.
One of my favorite parts of being an online teacher was discussion boards. And you can do this in a lot of different settings. But the reason for this type of interaction is that the students can interact with each other. You can interact with them. You can choose meaningful, social, emotional, connected topics, even outside of your curriculum focus. And they can connect on this in writing. And there's even tools out there where they can connect in video as well, whatever their preference is. And what you will find with this type of dynamic is you've got kids who might be really unwilling to share anything about themselves in writing, in person in the physical classroom, but in writing, they're a lot more able to do that. It kind of takes away some of that pressure for them in the physical classroom. So you'll really see some of your kids really opening up. And I think, just in general, seeking out ways to interject some of that social emotional topics. Right now, even doing a flipped classroom, having the students pick, hey, what's a topic we really want to discuss today, and really focus on that, tie in your reading and your writing and your connection there. And I think especially right now, that's really important.
Yeah. Well, and we're connecting from our home, right? So, I mean, each one of us, even right now, is in our home environment. And so there's opportunities for us to get to know each other in a way that we might not be able to do that in a classroom, because we recognize that one of us in this group is a huge Star Wars fan from a pillow they have on their chair. And I think it's just, as we think about those kinds of things, we can make actions, right? Yeah, Katie, I'm calling you out. We love it. We love it. You should see our chat happening back here with the Star Wars. It's real. And so suddenly that's just a very real conversation that we can have, where we might find connections between us sitting, across an aisle or even working together in a group. So thank you. You talked about social emotional learning, and it feels like that's more important now than ever, that we are finding ways to have our students think about their own emotional state, and that we're not ignoring the fact that life is in a little bit of turmoil for most of us. And so when we think about social emotional learning, in addition to what you already referenced, I mean, I know discussion boards are a great way to do that, but how can we really infuse social and emotional learning into a virtual environment? Clayton, do you want to take us away there?
Well, I don't know if this will answer your question. Here's a virtual fist bump we did having a meeting between kids and adults for our student mentorship program, and we asked everybody to create find a picture of a pair of shoes or a shoe, and then explain how that shoe represented them. Necessarily from education, but what is interesting is, like everyone else, Kate work out of the office until recently, because you can see us in our homes. And I have noticed that now that we are not working in the office, we have an all group office and all office group chat, and that goes up. The communication that we're doing through that has really increased, and it's not necessarily academic or business in nature. Checking on everyone and all of that. And so I would say, don't be afraid to do things in your classroom that are not academic, like asking everyone to show a picture of a shoe, or sending it out there. How is everyone doing? How is everything? That can also happen in the online world.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. Just, we don't rush to get to the content. And I think that's, if there's one thing that I would beg educators right now to think about, is that the content will be there. Students are going to come back. I read a great article about Hurricane Katrina and the education disruption that happened there. And students graduated and were able to go on to college, and they didn't have a glitch in their step. And so I think right now, to just make sure that we're not rushing, that we're not feeling this pressure, and that we're taking time to have kids take a picture of their shoe and tell a story about it or explain what that means. That's great. Thank you. So, but talking about rushing also makes me think about time management, and that as we're helping our students navigate into this virtual world, it feels like time management is more important than ever when you don't have a brick and mortar school that you're going to that's structuring your day. And so what are some tools or tips that you have your students use to just manage their time effectively as they are learning virtually?
Talk about that in the general sense of, aside from the world that we're dealing with right now, in the near future, students are going to be expected to engage and manage online courses in their workplace and college. So getting that introductory, pretty important. When students engage in this and the flexibility of pace, it actually allows students to take ownership of how well they do, because no one is standing over them and making them do it. And I think one of the criticisms has been That's why students aren't initially successful in online, is because they don't have that structure. But the reality is they're going to need to learn that structure, and they're going to need to be an advocate for themselves. And so that shift in responsibility can be a struggle at first, but the struggle is actually experiential learning, which prompts the student to find strategies. And so for us, we really give them a lot of scaffolding, but we encourage them to make their own schedule, give themselves end of week or day rewards, set goals for the term or the class or the whole year or the future. And I think having that supportive outreach from the teacher really goes a long way in helping the students find their groove and build a schedule that works for them.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Clayton, do you have anything that you would like to add to that around just the importance of tools?
Absolutely. So as Katie mentioned, we do give kids weekly reports. Our whole attendance system really revolves around lesson completion. And I think here's the most important part about that. The assignments the kids turn in, not the time they spend with you virtually, is the important thing. Again, we keep between synchronous and asynchronous. The most important thing is that they're able to get their work done on time. And the more that you can help them with that, the better. And ultimately, just jumping into this, realize that is king, everything else is secondary. And so from an online perspective, when you are figuring out how to do instruction, you're thinking, what assignments are the kids struggling on? Those are the assignments that I can offer live sessions on, or sometimes make videos. And I guess that's the other one, in separating out the LMS from your virtual classroom. Your teachers do have live hours this week, every week, but they also make tons and tons of teacher videos, some of which we require kids to watch. Others are struggling with this. Take a look at this video. It's an optional thing. And I would say, a couple things. Don't assign more work than you already assigned in your virtual classroom. And I think that could be an easy tip. So it's something to think about, or in your brick and mortar classroom. It's something to think about. If the kids were with me an hour each day and I assigned only 20 minutes of homework each day, I should probably only grant 20 minutes worth of assignments and make that with a video that I give them, or that live session or whatever, because management is a huge, huge issue. And again, you can help with scheduling. Another thing that helps students, have you thought about days and times you're going to school, and have you sat down and made a schedule that helps you with that? Because the students who do well in our system are what I call lesson-centric or assignment-centric. They're very good at figuring out what assignments they need to do and getting them in on time. And the ones who are very bad at our school are the ones, notably, when you start talking with them, that scheduling is a huge issue. When you say, tell me about your schedule, their answer would be, what schedule? Well, that's the issue. And so the more you can help them with that, the better off they're going to be. And I again emphasize what Katie said, don't go crazy in work assignment.
No, not right now. Not right now. And I think that that's good advice, not ever, because the reality is that we don't need to actually we're not responsible for filling, all of their day. That's not our job right now. Our job is to keep them learning, keep them listening, and just plugged into learning. That's great. Okay. So what about advice for teachers who are right now not being very patient with themselves? So we're very willing to say we need to be supportive of our students, we need to be patient with our students, this is new learning for everyone, and I'm going to be perfect at it because that's who I am as an educator, right? I want the gold star. So what advice would you give around just having some patience with ourselves and maybe with our colleagues and our leaders as we're navigating this new world?
Well, I think, everyone is rising to the challenge across the nation, and I think that's simply amazing and very inspiring. But my advice for everybody trying to get into this hurdle is to do less. Do less right now. If you're dealing right now with a very disruptive time period for yourself and your students, find the path to remote instruction that works for you. Think of this more of a temporary philosophical shift, and that you're just focusing on the how you can deliver good information in the easiest and the most supportive way. And if you already had content digitally, finding something like Google Classroom, it's free, that you can just put on there, just plug that in, and just get going. And don't worry about how perfect it's going to be, how you're meeting the standards. Just focus on real core things, real key things, especially if you're talking about from now until the end of the school year. And, also that you'll be shifting a lot of your time and energy from whole group instruction to being able to give individual feedback, which in the traditional classroom has always been one of the complaints, is not having enough time to work one-on-one with a student. So if you've got that content already, or you've got a digital textbook, use it, and then start working individually with your kids and connect with them. And I'll just end with this situation is a gift in disguise for educators right now. They can really make the most of it during this time period.
Yeah. Especially when we can lean into each other and support each other in times like we're doing right now, right, this time. So, Clayton, as you think about advice for someone just getting started, any tips that you have?
Yeah, I'd like to jump in on what Katie said about not being perfect. You do not to be a pro at doing these things. I still remember it was a long time I ever posted a single video to YouTube. I actually had this idea it was going to be hard. And then I discovered that screen shares, which is just a piece of software that records what's on your screen, are very, very easy. And I was like, oh, this is why kids post things to YouTube. I mean, this is ridiculous. And I would say this is the guideline. A teacher-made video that addresses how to do a specific assignment is infinitely better than a pro-style, very slickly produced out off YouTube that taught a concept, but actually a specific assignment. And again, I want to emphasize, we do require our kids to watch some of the videos, but not all of them. And actually, when you look at the majority of teacher-made videos that they've gotten to their students, they are not required. Even sometimes a video is better than an email to say, here's your grade book, and here's an issue, and here's how you can fix this, and send it to the student. That's really important. And I would just say the only guideline, again, let me emphasize Katie's apps, keep it simple. Don't go crazy. But understand this. If you are authentic, all your material is good. Do not worry about pro, don't worry about anything except being authentic and honest, and it will be great. And I would say, remember, also, the kids turning the assignments in, that's even more important than them spending time with you. And that needs to be a guideline. And, make authentic supports. And video is just one example, but there's many. There's rubrics, there's directions. Some of our teachers, when they insert their notes into our curriculum, they actually use a picture that says, Mrs. M says, and, they've got a funny little picture or whatever. That lets the kid know, this is my teacher in my course saying something to me. Anything authentic is good, and don't punish yourself. And I agree with Kate. I think that ultimately there are tools that will be learned here that people will continue to use, like Microsoft Teams and Google Meet and making short videos. You might even be able to say, wow, when this is all done, how can I enrich brick and mortar classroom through doing some of these things and posting them online and making them available to students?
Oh, that's such a great point. So we are now in the session where we're going to take some questions from people out there watching. And I know that there are people wondering, and we are going to have a future session on virtual tutorials. So know that is coming. It's queued up. We're getting ready for that, and it's going to be awesome. But I know one of our pressing questions is, what are you doing for your tutorials? How do you do that? I'm assuming you're using Google Hangout because it sounds like you're a Google Suite school. But if you could just maybe just in a short little window of time help us understand what tool do you use for tutorials? How do you have your tutors? How do you work with your tutors in that situation? And if there's any actual tech resources that you would recommend, like a discussion board or something like that people could go to.
I could probably summarize it real quick. We are using Google Hangouts to do live tutorials. And that is, and I think educators are finding that to be a struggle just because of that real-time interaction. And while we're still promoting that, we're using a couple of different strategies for it. I know one of the things that some of the AVID educators have shared on their AVID Educators Facebook is a Flipgrid, which is a way that video clips can be done, and that's a little more asynchronous. So if you're having trouble in real time doing that, I know that you can also use discussion boards asynchronously. Somebody had asked a question about discussion boards and what to use. Google Classroom has that for free. There are some other tools that you can use for that as well. And I think the other thing, actually, prior to all of this stuff happening in the last month especially, we were looking to hire an e-tutor, a college tutor, to be able to do online tutorials and assist our teachers with that. And I think that's definitely something that schools should explore, especially schools that are rural anyway and having trouble getting somebody in person, that at least that is a way to be able to do tutorials with a little more fidelity.
Great. And so everyone out there, some great tips from Katie. Know that we are going to continue queuing up great content for you, and we have virtual tutorials as another session that we'll go far deeper in, but that should maybe get you started. Are there any questions out there, Kayla? I'm looking to see. I know while she's giving us the next question, I know one of the questions people probably have would be just around some, if I were to choose 3 resources to get started now. So I've heard Flipgrid, I've heard maybe use Google if you have Google, but if you can think of just a couple of other just quick and easy actual tools that are easy to get started, easy to use, and people could just go, okay, I can do this.
Yeah, I have some suggestions. The number one, you're using ASucceed School, using Gmail. Classroom, Google Classroom is your LMS. Google Meet can be your virtual classroom. And then, of course, you want to check with your district. And if you, depending on how long these schools are closed, most districts have Hangouts, Hangouts is Skype to Google. They have that shut down, but it's part of the G Suite. And it's really worth enabling, because that allows group chats and other things, and that really, what's nice about Google Classroom is it's course specific. And again, when you think kids turning in work, what's interesting with online work, so we discourage kids from getting work teachers because it would overwhelm, and what's nice with the online world is you can turn in work at the right place. And that's, I would kind of call Google Classroom the AVID binder for the online teacher, because it makes sure that goes into place. There's all kinds of great screen share software out there. Cam Studio is free, and you can download it to your computer, and you can make those screen shares and those videos super easy. The Studio it's going to give you an AVI or an MPEG video that you later have to upload to YouTube if that's the case. We use something called Screencastify, and I just heard yesterday that Zoom can be an extension on Chrome. We like because it really links with YouTube well, or Google Drive really well, and those are just a few. You can think of any more. That those are just some tools that come right up to my mind, and some of the stuff that we put into our tutorials to use, because so many schools are already set up for it.
Right. So that's great. Thank you. And I know, kind of thinking in terms of questions, and so Katie, this is probably a great one for you. Are there guidelines for how much synchronous time per age group is appropriate? So if I'm, a 5th grade teacher or a 10th grade teacher, how much synchronous time should I try and aim for? Or should I give myself some grace right now and just do what I can? That's kind of what I also feel.
I don't know that there's really a good guideline, and a lot of that is because it's so situational and it depends on your course and your age group. I would definitely say give yourself some leeway right now. If you can get your kids all in one place once a week right now until the end of the school year, I think that's great. I think there is a tendency to want to recreate the actual physical classroom online, and you certainly can do that. And some online schools do that, but I think for right now, it's really just about what you can do and what you can get out there. And when you have your first couple synchronous sessions, I think that'll be a really good clue for you, whether that worked or didn't work or what you could do better the next time.
Mm-hmm. So we're going to just take a couple more questions. So one is, do you have students practice marking the text digitally, or are their textbooks not digital and they're engaging with that in the way that they want to? So do you use a tool? Is there something like, do you use Edgy or Perusal, or is there any, or Google? Are you actually putting text into the actual Google and having students mark there? How do you have students mark their text?
I'll have Clayton do that one.
You want me to talk about it? Oh, Clayton,
it's you.
Okay. Well, here's something that's kind of interesting. In our AVID course, we, of course, record notes. And actually, I think our AVID teachers decided to make a requirement that those notes would be handwritten and then take pictures of them. We actually push out an app called Cami to all of our Chromebooks. And basically what that does is that'll take a PDF and let you mark it all up and highlight and what have you. And then some of the reading activities, it requires that. So when we do, when I'm talking specific activities, so let's say we bring in a reading from AVID and we want them to use a specific, I can't remember the AVID term for it, but you're looking at a reading in a specific, and you say, if author's purpose was highlight what is important. When we do those, can we enable those tools? But generally when kids are interacting with the text, they can interact with it their own way, encourage our teachers to make study guides, and that we have not quite jumped to AVID school-wide, but I know the very first thing we're going to jump to is notes, and we're going to provide our kids all kinds of tools for making notes, because I think that can be difficult, especially in the online world when you're essentially interacting right with the text. And it's been my experience, kids tend to take more notes than they should, not less. And then that causes them to give up because they're basically rewriting the textbook. So it is really important what you're doing with kids with notes. Great.
All right. And then our last question is virtual field trips. Do you go on virtual field trips? Is that something that is part of what you do, or should we not even worry about that right now?
I can just comment real quick. We have that integrated. Many of our teachers will have that by subject matter, but I do want to say, just connected to AVID, there are a lot of virtual college tours out there. And I think that might be an excellent thing to put out there, especially for your sophomore, junior, seniors, actually any grade level, really, to get them looking at a college campus. And some of those colleges are pretty robust in their virtual college tours. So even just Googling that, you're going to get a lot of resources there.
Great. All right. And then there was, I lied, because there was one question that came through when people were doing their submission for questions and kind of marking that they were going to attend. And it's a great question. So it was really, during this time, should an AVID teacher see themselves as a success coach, an academic success coach, or a teacher of content? So what is our role? If I'm an AVID teacher right now, what is my role?
Every person have to answer that individually.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'll just say real quick, and Clayton can add in, but I think, right now, academic success for sure. I think you're really just trying to be supportive and really just help the student navigate this time period as well.
Great. Well,
yeah, and I would even say, oh, I'm sorry.
Nope. Go.
I would even say, if you think about what you are teaching AVID, and that is how to interact critically with this complicated material in advanced courses, when you look at what is happening online, these kids are now, one of the metaphors you use, these kids are now directly to the curriculum. And the role of the teacher as middleman becomes less. And so it's probably more important than ever. It can stand, can read critically, can understand it, because they're going to have less guidance from their normal content teacher. So I guess if I had to make that decision, I'd lean more towards that coaching thing.
Yeah. Great. Thank you. So I just want to say thank you, Clayton and Katie, for sharing your expertise with us today. I know that the chat was just popping with people asking questions and even supporting each other and recommending tools. So that's just an awesome reminder that we are better together. We truly are. I think if that's one lesson that I'm learning from this experience, is that we need each other in times like this. So I know that our viewers appreciated learning new ideas and strategies for how to leverage asynchronous and synchronous learning, for thinking about how to build relationships with students in their virtual space, the reminder to just not stop making social and emotional learning a part of what we're doing, and that we do want to help students practice time management more so now than ever, because 24 hours can sure get frittered away quickly, and all of a sudden we're into another day. And so I think that reminder of our job as coach and time management supporter is important. And then I appreciated the reminder to be kind to ourselves as we're all trying something new. I think that's just an important piece for us to hold on to, even when we're scared to death or it fails miserably. So thank you for those great takeaways now. For everyone that's out there, please join us for next Thursday's AVID Virtual Collaborative. And know that we are recording every virtual collaborative. You can find that recording on our avid.org/virtual collaborative. And so that's where that will be housed. If you have somebody that couldn't be here today, know available there. Next Thursday, we are going to explore WICWAR and digital tools. And so we'll be able to go into some resources that we're pulling together and getting ready to share with you. We're going to have Candy McKay, a senior learning designer on our digital learning team, here with us, as well as an AVID staff developer and AVID elective teacher who does a lot with digital tools and WICWAR. Please stay connected with us on Facebook. If you have not already joined our Facebook groups for educators, district directors, or principals, we sure would love for you to be a member there. And let's continue the conversation and supporting each other with great ideas on Twitter at AVID for College. AVID is continuing to expand our virtual learning and teaching opportunities, so get ready for more exciting announcements coming your way soon. And just know that given the challenges of distance learning due to COVID-19, AVID Weekly, our proven lesson plans that thousands of AVID teachers rely upon, will be made available to all AVID schools starting Monday. So that you can find that on avid.org. We help educators close opportunity, expectation, and achievement gaps so our students can be prepared for college, career, and life. And I can't tell you how much it means that you are leaning into this work with us. Thank you for showing up here and for your students. Thank you.
Ready.